Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. You can find me on stage, hopefully once all the pandemic stuff is like blown over, but hopefully in March at Shakerz, which is what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about this wonderful club called Shakerz Show Lounge. We're talking about the wonderful human that runs it. I'm going to go into all of that today. We're going to be talking about the business aspects of running a strip club, challenges, issues, dancers, security, lots of stuff, kind of like pretty much everything. And I'm really excited to kind of go into this topic because I've always wanted to do this for a while. And I'm really excited to bring on our guest today, who I'll introduce in just a moment because I also forgot that I'm mid-intro for myself. Sorry, I'm also a digital content creator. I have an OnlyFans. We have just launched our Patreon. So it's patreon.com/stripbysia if you want to keep up to date with all things regarding this podcast. If you want to support, please do. And I was also a former sugar baby for a number of years here in Canada. And yes, going back to our special guest today, I'm really excited to bring Jade onto the show today, who is the owner and operator of Shakerz Show Lounge here where I am in Canada. So Jade, are you there?
I am here. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you on today. We have a really super packed episode. Thank you everyone who submitted questions. We are going to do our best to kind of go over all the questions that came in. There was an overwhelming response and lots of interest around this episode. And I am so excited to kind of get into all things running a strip club. So it was really interesting. This is a fan requested topic. Shout out to Craig, who had requested this topic, and also Rye on Twitter, who was also really interested in hearing about. We want to hear about we love the dancers, but we also want to hear about the other people that are involved with the club and like everyone else behind the scenes as well. So Jade, so thank you so much for coming on the show to speak with me today. Excited to get into it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the business.
And the business.
Exactly. And the business. So, as Sia said, well, I know her as Kimchi.
Yes.
But, my name is Jade. I am the owner, operator of Shakerz Show Lounge in Whalley, BC. And we're currently, at this time, the last exotic show lounge, I guess we've always called it, east of the bridge. So I guess before you get into like the Okanagan and stuff, they've got more. And then when you get into Alberta, it's the culture around adult entertainment is a lot more integrated into society. So they've got a couple per city. But we are the last strip club standing in the suburbs of Metro Vancouver. So that's pretty cool. It's changed a lot over the last 20 years.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, and we'll go into that later in terms of like, oh my God, there's so many strip clubs that are dying and disappearing, and not really many that are popping up. So kudos to you for sticking around for so long. Like 20 years is a huge accomplishment. Huge. Yeah, and like speaking of which, I know the club is doing some renovations, which we'll also get into later. Which I'm like, I saw like a little sneak peek on TikTok, and I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting.
I know I finally gotten the art of TikTok, and it's like you're supposed to create anticipation. So I've learned I wasn't supposed to expose the renovations, but just show that we're doing it.
Build the hype, and this is
build the hype, right?
This is gonna be a good episode to help promote it by the time it's open again. So yay!
Yeah, like we're renovating, but sorry, you can't see what it's gonna look like yet.
All about the teas.
All about the teas. Yes, you know about that.
Well, the audience is really dying to know, how did this all fall into your lap? And I don't know, am I allowed to say that you're an HR professional by day?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, how does an HR professional like yourself find yourself operating a strip club? Like, what?
With a lot of rules.
Yes.
Yes, with a lot of rules. So, you know, we keep it pretty structured around there. I'm known as the owner operator, but I'm also known as the hard ass. So
yes,
I'm grateful for everybody that puts up with that. But how did we get here? So the history of the building is actually a cool story. It's been quite a few different names, but it's always been a facility with an entertainment license.
Mm-hmm.
So it was built in the mid 80s and it opened as Champagne's Cabaret in 1991 and it ran for 10 years. And it was
Wow.
actually a live music hub, showcased the early sets of Headley, Nickelback,
What?
and my grandparents went there and watched those on their weekends.
No way.
Yeah, so it was a hub for local talent back in the days. And Shakerz has always kind of been the place for local talent. So that's what kind of differentiates us from the other clubs in BC because the other clubs obviously they have this historical story of like fame with big names and stuff, but we got kind of more of the history of the local acts. So and like the Canadian acts. So my grandparents spent their weekends there in the late 90s and they built a relationship with the owners.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandpa, when he worked for CN Rail, he
Oh, wow.
decided to take a change and shift their interest, and they actually bought the place.
What? Wow, that's a huge
Yeah.
career change. So
So,
cool.
without any knowledge of the nightclub industry, and the Wally Entertainment District was very vibrant in the early 2000s. We had a fierce competition with iconic names like the Dell, the Mirage, Cheers, the Ozone, Flamingo
Yeah,
Hotel,
that's
right?
so
Poncho and
true.
Lefties. Everything was really popping, going off around there back then. And there was a lot of competition for nightlife.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandparents had to decide what they were going to do, or else they were going to achieve bankruptcy,
Right.
right?
Right.
And what was going to make them different. And on May 1st, 2002, that's when they opened the doors of the first, I guess, adult entertainment facility. And my grandma was the first owner. And I remember when I was 6, 7, I would go down there and help her with the cash outs and go play with the pop gun and stuff.
What?
I spent all
So
my
cool.
childhood growing up there, and it was always part of conversations. And then when my grandpa passed away in 2012, that's when she took a step back. And now that my brother and I are old enough, we have come back into the picture, and she's still the highest boss. So she's my boss.
Yeah.
She's still the ultimate owner operator, but I'm kind of the one that makes the decisions for her because at her age, the strip club game isn't really ideal.
That is really truly fascinating. Like that's really cool to like it's basically like a family business.
It totally is. Yeah, my the idea came from my aunt who was a preschool teacher at the time, but she was actually an MC for ladies' nights. So she
Oh.
hosted male dancers.
No way. Oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
so cool cuz like basically I was like, wow, like how like with your grandpa, starting with your grandpa, and I'm not sure if you know, but like how did he along with your grandma come up with the decision, okay, like we want to make this an adult venue as opposed to like, the nightclubs are kind of popping around there and other bars and stuff too. Is it because like there was nothing else in the area that like offered that?
So people probably like, well, I don't know what people think, but
Mhm.
you can't just buy a bar and open it.
No.
You can buy a building, and
Yeah.
then that building has a business license, or you can obtain a certain business license for a certain name, and then you can either have a liquor primary or a food primary license assigned to it, and then you can have like a gaming license or gambling license, and that's assigned actually to like a postal code or an address.
Oh.
So when they purchased the building from the family that was running Champagne's Cabaret,
Mhm.
it had an entertainment license already.
Oh, sweet.
So they were like, what are we going to do with this to make us competitive in the Wally Entertainment District based on kind of the culture, the nightlife, and everything that was going on there? And it just made sense to kind of go with it to open the adult entertainment lounge, and it worked. It was successful.
Yeah, definitely successful. I mean, there were 20 years and counting now, which is an amazing achievement.
And the last one standing, as I said. So
yeah, that's an incredible achievement. That's so, so cool. And then now it's falling into your lap, which I think is so fascinating, going through all the different generations, you know? Like, I just wonder, like, does your grandma have any like vivid memories of like what it was like in the past and like how it's changed now?
well, definitely we were re-involved in the middle of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very different. Another thing is that just the area as a whole in Wally, you're seeing buildings going up around there. It's going to be a completely different space within the next 10 years.
Oh, totally.
One thing though, that we have done and that we've stayed true to, we're really ingrained with that like local culture of, supporting the local acts, with putting like people, Surrey rappers on stage for a night. Or I've had times where guys will ask me, can I go on stage and sing? And I will just say, yeah, of course, like go do it.
Cool.
And I think that we're still kind of living through those values of like supporting the community with our entertainment. And that's one thing too with our staff. Every single one of our employees is from Wally or from Surrey, within that area. They live within 15 minutes, even closer.
Wow.
To the bar. Yeah. So
I didn't know.
That's something that really has not changed. That stayed the same. The stage has changed. That has been rebuilt.
Oh.
And officially now the carpet.
Yes.
So, yes. But other than that, in terms of experience, I mean, people used to spend a lot more money in the early 2000s before the recession, but that's a little bit different. But no, I think that a lot of our values have really stayed the same. And that's something that I guess if you want to say, oh, what makes you stand apart from like other facilities or like not only other clubs, but other like restaurants, or why you choose to go there, it's that there's definitely like a culture at Shakerz. So
absolutely. And you also mentioned like, well, for those who are listening, because this is a global podcast, Wally is about like half an hour from downtown Vancouver, so just in the suburbs there. It is changing, as you mentioned. There's like tons of skyscrapers, new developments that are coming around and stuff too, which I think is wonderful. And as you mentioned, the area is definitely going to be changing. It already has changed like in the past 10 years. Like those buildings were like not there before.
No.
Yeah. I was like, what's going on? That's so different here. And I was driving and I was like, what's happening? It's great. I think it's really awesome. I think like, and I wanted to touch on a little bit of the area. Like sometimes Surrey can be seen as like quote unquote rough. And then of course, like having a strip club in like a quote unquote like rough neighborhood, it kind of gives into that negative stereotype that strip clubs are dangerous venues. And then you have people in the neighborhood, which is why like a lot of strip clubs have shut down, saying like, I don't want a strip club in my backyard. Or NIMBYism. How do you deal with the negative stereotypes that strip clubs have and like negative reputations?
I deal with this a lot, and particularly one of the most frequent times I visit this conversation is during interviews, where people are hesitant to accept a job at our venue because, they don't want to drive to Surrey because they don't want to park their car there late at night, or they're scared their car is going to get broken into. They're like, is it safe for me to park my car in your parking lot, kind of thing? Based on our location, we're not located on a strip of clubs. So we're very lucky that we don't have kind of like a breeding ground for violence, where people leave the facility and it's like an unregulated or unsecure space where they can go like fight each other or anything like that. Because anywhere that you get alcohol or vagrancy, there's going to be violence. I think that also another conversation is about our staff and stuff, having everybody from the area. They're very passionate about maintaining relationships with the clientele and maintaining safety of like a place that they take pride in. So it's not just a job to them. They've been there for 4, 5, 6 years. So they are they're not perfect, obviously, but they treat the facility in a way where when our eyes aren't on them, we know that they're doing their job properly.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so
Did
good to
I
hear. Makes me
edit
no,
this
that
out?
was
But like, did I
perfect.
answer the question properly?
Yeah, no, you're
Okay,
great.
good.
Well, I guess going on along the lines of safety, how do you guarantee the safety for, well, not only the dancers, but also your staff and also the patrons?
So obviously we have the same kind of regulations as any other liquor primary facility. We have to serve alcohol, let people in within the regulations of the British Columbia Liquor Licensing and Control Act. So you have to be of 19 years old with government issued ID to come into the facility, and then you're subject to full pat down and check, and then also CCTV camera at all within all spaces of the facility. So you're on camera at all times, and you are subject to a pat down and full search. You also can't bring big bags in where you can conceal stuff. So no weapons are going to be entering the facility. And to my knowledge, we've had stuff seized that people have tried to get in. So, you know how they say like, oh, 99% of stuff is seized, and then it's like the whole black market of stuff that gets missed. We try to be really, really good with that. So problems don't occur. And then if a fight breaks out, like I said, where any place where there's alcohol and aggression fueled, not just in a strip club, I have the servers and the staff are trained to protect the safety of the patrons who are in the bar, and where like they would remove bottles or cups, and just make sure that the space is secure. And they're on camera at all times. Like you're on camera during a VIP dance. Unless you're in the bathroom, you're good if you're in the bathroom.
Definitely don't want cameras in the bathroom.
So, and then also as a bartender, I am really, really careful to so I also, as an owner operator, I also bartend sometimes. So I'm in there fully seeing the action firsthand.
Yeah.
You know, I'm interacting with people, but it's a really valuable experience. I'm the type of owner that interacts with people and builds relationships with people, and it's really valuable because I cannot create a business that is my patron that's worth spending money on, like for my customers, if I don't know what they want, right? I want to sell them the product that's worth their value. So that's super important to like listen to their needs, and we're always taking the feedback. But I won't overserve people. So that's a really big thing too, is that we prioritize our general manager. She's a female too. So, and she's been bartending for 25 years. She actually taught me that it's super important. Never, ever overserve someone. There's no amount of money in the entire world that's worth overserving someone, because even if you didn't get caught, it's like they'll become violent. They'll throw up. There's these consequences. So that's one of the most important things about protecting safety as well, is making sure that you're aware of liquor service and how much people are drinking and stuff. And our servers are really good at communicating that too.
Yeah, definitely. Like, 'cause that's a huge liability. Like, I'm also a server, like super, super part-time at a hotel, every once in a while. And yeah, they're super anal about like, hey, make sure you don't overserve people. 'Cause like the minute they leave your establishment, they can come back to you, and it can also be like a huge, huge, huge liability. And that's like something you don't really want to get your hands dirty.
No, you never want. I learned that super young, like with my first serving job, where it's like, oh, if they leave and they get in the accident or anything, and the question they ask is, where did you come from?
Yeah.
Because the person that's served the alcohol is going to bear the burden of responsibility for that. But also, there's so many consequences or implications of someone that is intoxicated inside the bar too.
Yeah.
You know? And we've seen that firsthand, whether they get hurt or we watched a guy last year on Super Bowl. And it wasn't even like an aggressive fight. It was, he fell down and like almost broke his leg.
Oh my God.
And it was just because he tripped over a chair and stuff. So it's like accidents can happen, even if it's not an aggressive altercation between two people. So
Yeah.
just, we have to take into consideration that stuff. And another thing for safety that I am really proud of the guys for, I say guys because all of our security guards are men, but they're all trained on first aid and they keep their first aid certifications up to date, just so they're always able to perform with confidence and protect themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're great. They're awesome. Like they're so freaking quick. Like I remember
They are quick, yeah.
Yeah, no, which is great because you want them to obviously respond like and just be on their toes all the time. Because like I remember I was on stage like last time I was like booked, and one of the patrons in front row, like you're not supposed to touch the dancers. Okay, people listening, you're not supposed to touch any of the dancers. But one patron did, and then I like turned around, and the next thing you know, like the bouncer came all the way from like the door all the way to the other side of the club. And the guy was like, "What just happened?"
I know, they're so quick that sometimes I have to remind them that I'm like, okay, yeah. Sometimes I have to remind them that I'm like, it's, everybody has a first time in a club where they need to learn the rules. And as long as they're respectfully learning the rules, I'm like, okay, they can, have another chance.
Yes.
And then another chance is out the door after that. But
yeah, exactly. Because some people like maybe it's their first time in the club, or they just don't know, or it's their birthday and they're just having so much fun. Yeah, like they'll just they just need to know you can't do that shit again.
yeah, you can't do that again.
No. Another comment I was going to say when you were speaking, I really think it's so admirable that you're an owner operator, that you're actually there working as well. Because I know so many other businesses that like the owner is just like never there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been a learning experience and it's been really humbling. The staff have taught me so much, and I was definitely, when I came in, like I was young and I put the cart before the horse, and I was like, I know everything about this industry I've never worked in before. And it took me a while to kind of like sit back and allow and like relinquish, I guess like ego is the word, like relinquish my ego and like let them kind of guide me and like trust them and stuff. And that's what I think one of the biggest things is, trust. And the staff are really, really awesome. And I'm really grateful that the dancers trust them so much too, because the relationships that we've built with people in the industry for years, I was really blessed that I got to come into that. Like I said, we repossessed the bar from the gap from 2012 to 2020, once again in 2020. And we got to come into the bar and into Shakerz and get this whole like team of people that were really awesome. And like, it could have been a completely different story, but it wasn't. They rock.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Like, it really just sounds like a really like family type vibe that you've created.
Yeah, we fight like a family too.
So. I'm sure. Well, I mean, along the same lines, like with the pandemic and stuff happening too, and like with the staffing shortage across all hospitality sectors, are you also experiencing like something similar? Or like, I know you mentioned a lot of your staff have been there for like 4, 5, 6 years and stuff, but is it hard?
I think that one of the things that has been really challenging, but also we're really grateful for, is their patience with us. As like, last year we were only allowed to be open until 11 p.m. because of the liquor sales restrictions. So everybody's hours got cut way, like significantly, compared to what they were used to working. And so I think that we haven't experienced shortages, but we haven't been in the position to hire specialized team members or hire to a specific criteria. So not yet, but I know that given the pandemic ends one day, I know it will. It's fine. It'll end. I know that there will be trouble again. But I also think that never mind. I'm not.
What we're going to say?
I was gonna say, I think that it's like the funding and like government supports and stuff for the hospitality industry are not very good.
No, it's true.
And I definitely think that there should be more support for people that are definitely more vulnerable, like being maybe like uneducated or like in their, not uneducated, but like unskilled or like in their education or something, like they are more vulnerable and they don't have like as many supports. And I just don't think that the government resources were as lucrative or as supportive as they could be.
Yeah, I mean, I I've just been really hearing a lot of the struggles that even like the hospitality industry, like I have like a few like restaurant owner friends too, and they're like, there has been like little to no support from the government during the pandemic, or it's been like really, really tricky to get that kind of funding, to get access to it. So like it's not the first time I've heard that before, unfortunately. So yeah, our government can definitely use a lot of improvement for sure.
I know. I was like, for example, obviously the bar's closed right now. We took a bad closure on the, and for this is kind of an explanation of something that like people don't understand, right? So people are like, oh, why did you guys close right now and nobody else did, right? And that's something where right now, so our liquor license is a liquor primary license, and then the other clubs downtown, they might have a liquor or a food primary license.
Right.
So that means that they have a kitchen.
Right.
And they serve alcohol in regulation with their food. So they don't have to close.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now. But for me personally, I lost a significant amount of my income since I do work there. And there was, with the government supports and stuff, I had a 44% reduction.
Whoa.
And the requirement was 50%. Yeah, I mean, when people, sometimes people look at me and they're like, oh, you have a degree, but you're working here. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, totally. I'm like, that's why though. Like, I had a 44% reduction in my income from working there, and I was 6% off of meeting that requirement, which is like so shitty.
That is really shitty. I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay, but that's it's the barriers to achieving the support suck.
Definitely, absolutely. And it's not the best time right now. I mean, the last couple of years have been super not great. Yeah, with the pandemic and stuff too, it's really tricky to have the clubs open with, entertainment being like a contact. I was going to say contact sport. It's not.
It can be.
It can be.
If you with consent ask for that experience and the consenting party, like
by all means,
like a little flag football. But yeah, if you're going in, if you want to ask me how I kept the club open for the last year through the pandemic,
yeah, that's exactly where I'm going. So like you already know, like how was that whole thing?
So it was hard, but I think that a lot of it had to do with enthusiasm and a lot of passion from the beginning. Like we went in August 2020, and my grandma was like, well, actually, so I graduated from UBC in 2019 with my Bachelor of Arts specialization in political science. And I graduated competitively in from the country's best political science program.
Amazing.
And on Thanksgiving, I went to the bar, and it was my first night ever managing.
Okay.
And my grandma sends me this message, and she says, Jade, you're finally fulfilling the legacy of this family. I've never been so proud of you in my entire life.
Oh my God.
Like, I mean, I have a damn degree, Grandma. You watched me cross the stage at UBC, and it's like, well, but that's the family values, right? Yeah. So I don't get to choose. No. So what's important to me isn't important to her. So I finally fulfilled the family legacy by kind of following in these footsteps. So I was really fueled by the beginning of this new chapter when we took over in August. And that was when the pandemic was kind of slowing down. And then everything picked back up in September 2020, and then it got worse and worse. And I think that I was just in that never give up headspace. I was like, we're not gonna, there's nothing that can make us give up. And then when we eventually had to close in April and May for when all indoor dining was closed. And that was it was devastation.
I remember that.
I was like, my identity, I didn't know who I was anymore because I couldn't go bartend a couple nights of the weekend. So, but it's true. Having that part of my life, it's like, it keeps me active from my desk job. I was talking to my doctor, who I regularly check in with about my mental health. And I told her, yeah, I'm working 7 days a week, but like 2 of them are bartending, and like, it's great. She's like, okay, like, I think this will work. And it did. When we had to close, I was sad because, and I think that the reason why we stayed open for so long was because I pushed my grandma every time there was some kind of public health order. I was like, we got this, we got this, we got this. And I pushed our manager, we got this. And we updated our safety plan, and we just tried every single idea that there was. We stopped doing VIPs in November of 2020, and we were open from November until April with no VIPs, and we just had stage shows and sold drinks, which was something that I guess the club has never done since it opened. Like, there's never been a time where you couldn't get a dance. Ever. But it was, I remember walking into the dancer room, and it was 3 girls in there, and I was like, we can't do dances tonight. I don't know what to do. And then they're like, well, my customers are here. Like, can I go hang out with them? And we'd figured out that they could go on like these undercover missions on the floor in their civilian clothes. So they just had to bring a change of clothes.
I remember that.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, remember? And then I would text the girls before every shift or before like the new round and be like, remember to bring an outfit that you like. Because, sometimes you'll come to work in like your sweatpants and Uggs.
Yes, so, always.
Yes, always. Yeah. So some people don't want to wear that on the floor. Some people really do. But I was like, just go, you have to go undercover on the floor and like wear a mask and all this. So we just tried to create like a different experience. And you couldn't give a dances, no, but you could still perform as your like dance yourself on stage. But we had to really limit the contact.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you did. Like, I'm really, really glad that was put in place. Cause like, I was also booked during that time too. I think that was like my very first time at Shakerz was like last year in 2020, I think like February or something. And I'm just like, what is going to happen now with all these like restrictions? So that's really cool that you were able to innovate. Cause I think that's where some businesses thrive, where you're like, okay, I'm in a sticky situation. I need to think like on my feet to figure out what the hell I'm going to do next. And I think you guys did a great job in pivoting. Really.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that was, I think that part of it though was the enthusiasm that I had from it being new. And I took a lot of pride in it being a family value and growing up beside something, and then finally being trusted by my family and by my grandma and by the people that I love to make decisions on behalf of all of us, right? Because this is our name.
Yeah.
I was super fueled, and we were always discussions every single day, and it was like, it felt like we could never win. I don't have that enthusiasm now. I definitely am enjoying this break and this renovation, and it's really nice. But I'm really stoked to get back, and we have a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be planned, and we're going to announce.
Oh, I'm excited. Like, when can you say when you're slated to reopen again?
Well, we wanted to open. I talked to my grandma about this actually yesterday, and we wanted to open obviously on the 18th, but we're like, there's not going to be any change. We're going to have to get a little food truck or something outside. I was
Ooh,
thinking of mac and cheese or something. So if
yes.
anybody has any ideas or feedback about what they would like to eat, because we have to be serving food to be open. So slide in the DMs.
Yeah.
Because I would love to serve food that people actually want to eat.
I would love
But
that too as a dancer, like, because I'm like, what should I order from DoorDash? Like,
yeah, right. I was thinking a mac and cheese food truck.
yes, please. I would love
Yeah,
that. That, oh my God, that would
right.
be so good.
So we're gonna plan for February 1st, just
Cool.
because there's no difference from it for me, and I'll give it a little bit more time. I feel like the 18th is tomorrow,
Yeah,
but
it's so soon. So
suddenly it's around the corner.
literally,
That's great, but there's a couple more things that we want to do now, and we've got my grandma's been there every day, and she's super passionate about it coming to life now. And instead of her painting her house every day, now she gets to paint the bar again.
so fun.
So fun.
Quick random question for you. Like, did you always know that you were gonna kind of go back into the family business, or was this something that was like when you graduated, like, okay, I'm just gonna just try this and see how it goes?
I had no idea. No,
Wow.
I was out for lunch with my I was out for lunch with my aunt, I think, and she was like, "Don't tell anyone, but we're doing this." And I was like, "Okay." And then a conversation happened, and a week later, we
Oh
were
my
there.
God, are you serious?
Yeah.
Were you nervous or scared at all? Like,
I was really excited.
oh, great. That's so good to hear.
Yeah, no, I was super stoked. I needed something new. I was also, I have a marketing background. So I do human resources and marketing during the day.
Yes.
So that's my day job. And I was so excited to dig my hands into the marketing aspect of this role. And that's kind of something that I've really taken over, and that I wish I had more time for. And that as I automate processes more with the bar, because it needs an update, innovation and stuff. Although innovation isn't always the answer to everything, I believe.
True. True.
Innovation, yeah, you can't rely on things that don't have proven results. Like, but and technology. I think innovation is a marketing strategy, but technology and stuff. I do need to innovate some of my methods, and as I do, I really want to prioritize the marketing aspect of the bar with the media and the themes. And that's our first step with renovations and stuff, is really creating an experience that people enjoy, that more people enjoy too. And that it's not, and I think we're going to talk about this more, as kind of the future of the industry.
Yeah.
And it's creating something that is not only for like an old white man.
Right.
Yeah, because I think that's part of the stigma too, is that adult entertainment facilities or like exotic show lounges or strip clubs are only for one type of customer.
Right. That's so true. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've spoken about that just a little bit on the show, but it's like, again, like another stereotype. And it's really cool and progressive to hear that you want to kind of move away from that. So,
well, I mean, old white men are totally welcome. Like, they can come as much as they want. I love them, but everyone's welcome. Like, young women too. It's like all of my friends love it. I don't know. I thought it was really rad that when I posted that I was jumping on the pod with you, a bunch of my UBC colleagues reached out and was like, "This is so cool." And I've actually never had engagement from them on this topic before. Yeah. So that was really cool and I hope that they listen, and I hope that they're listening. So shout out if they are. I hope that they've learned something.
I hope so too. Please stick around, because there's lots of juicy questions that are coming at the end of the show, which I'm excited for. But I kind of want to wrap this up, at least this first portion. But I wanted to kind of go into any challenges, if you have any, if there are any. You being a woman in like a sea of like male-owned and operated strip clubs, like, what has that experience been like for you?
So I think that, and this is something that I was thinking about too, because I think that being a woman in a male dominated industry is a question that every single woman that's a manager or a boss or an owner faces or gets.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've been thinking about for the last couple of days, because I was like, what has actually been my authentic experience with this? Because think I don't think that there's anything wrong with a man being an owner or a boss or anything. It's like, that's just, sometimes the world is the way the world is. But there's this phenomenon that I learned about in school, and it's a political phenomenon called the enemy inside. And it's about negation of like girls loving girls. And it's like the animosity that women feel towards women. So like, I think that one of the largest challenges that I've felt is the enemy inside, and like dealing with like animosity towards or from other women.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
That's a huge thing. So I think that like nobody ever wants to listen to the young girl in power. So
Yes.
I've dealt with it from like dancers. I've dealt with it from colleagues sometimes. I've dealt with it from so many different situations. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you're the owner operator. I think that women are actually the worst people in a male dominated industry.
They are.
Because they are. They definitely are. Because like women can fuck their way to the top. Sorry, can I say that?
Yes, you can swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like women can fuck their way to the top, but as soon as I want to give them feedback about something that they've done wrong, or like something, like any kind of feedback, hey, I need you to show up on time, or like, hey, I need you to not, like, one of the biggest things is when people want to leave early and I'm like, I'm paying you to be here until midnight.
Yeah.
And then I'm the enemy. I'm the biggest bitch in the entire world. Yeah. Like they can't believe that how dare I ask them to stay here until midnight, or like, how dare I ask them to go on the floor and work. So I think that, I don't know if that's like a new dynamic, or I think that that's like just female human nature, and you deal with that with any kind of boss or manager role or power dynamic. When, I don't know if it's because I'm like a relatively new person, I don't think it is, but I think that it just has to do with like, how can she tell me what to do?
Totally.
Because like sometimes women, if they receive feedback from like a male power figure, they feel more like shame or like guilt, but like if it's from a female one, they feel more like anger or resentment.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. Like women unfortunately can be so catty and competitive against each other, and I fucking hate that.
Yeah. So I think that that's one of the biggest ones, is learning how to navigate. One of the biggest challenges personally, if we're going to talk about women and being a woman, the biggest one is learning how to successfully navigate like productive conversations, give feedback, be a friend, be a supporter, be a boss, and like wear all these different hats that are productive, that I'm supposed to wear, but also like have
there's a fine balance.
There is, really. but I also cannot control like the emotions or reactions or ultimately like the human nature of another person.
Exactly.
So, and that's just how people are conditioned. So
totally. Well, that's a great answer. Like that's totally not what I expected. So
yeah, I have another one of the biggest challenge. That's not the biggest challenge about the industry though, and I think that the industry is seeing something much worse.
What do you think that is? Do you want to go into it?
I asked my grandma this too, because I wanted to know what's the biggest challenge that she thinks.
Yeah.
And her answer and mine are the same, but in different contexts. Okay. So she said, so the biggest challenge, and I'm sure that you're going to totally agree with me because this is a huge conversation.
Okay.
But I just want to tell you that I can agree with it. The biggest challenge is the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So my grandma...
It's a bigger beast.
My grandma said that the biggest challenge on the internet is porn. And I was like, what? And then she's like, you can go watch porn, just click your fingers. And I was like, that's not a problem because, well, I mean, she's entitled to her own feelings. But I think that one of the things, the differentiation between like exotic online entertainment or like content is that in a strip club, like you're still getting human interaction and like human, like
and
personalized community, like company, like that's a way different experience. Like you cannot digitalize that.
No,
you cannot digitalize that, which is why I just like don't think that technology is taking over the world. So I think that the authentic connection between humans that you get in the club is like really the basis of like why there's a future.
Yeah.
But I think that the internet is the biggest problem for the industry because of the regulation.
Okay.
Yeah. So the marketing regulations and how the big tech companies are writing the rule books for what we're allowed to market and how they're leaving the marginalized businesses out.
That makes a really good point.
Yeah.
Really
so
yeah, absolutely.
Facebook and Instagram and everybody and TikTok that has these community guidelines.
Yeah.
They are like the millionaires, billionaires, like the richest people in the world. And they're writing the rule books for what small businesses are not allowed to post.
Yes, exactly. And it's basically like censorship.
Yeah. So then the marketing, us being able to like find our target market and like market online, which technically your online consumption and like what you're consuming for social media impacts your behaviors and all this. Like if you see an ad for something, you're like, I want a cold drink. Like I want to go to this place. I want a meal from this place. And it's like, if I cannot penetrate that with my marketing because it's impossible, like I don't meet the regulations because I'm a business that sells sex work, then I cannot reach my target market.
Right.
Which, yeah, that's the hardest. That's 100% the hardest part about the business.
Because you cannot penetrate that. Like once you're shadow banned and once like Facebook or Instagram, same company.
Losing your account, everything.
Yes, exactly. And it's like really, really hard to get back. It's really, really hard to get out of that hole once you're labeled as not a good candidate for their platform.
Totally.
Yes. Oh, so good. So good. I love that. And I haven't done an episode on that in a long time, but who did I speak with? Censorship guidelines. I have done an episode on that before, but maybe I'll have to revisit it. So thanks for the inspo.
No worries. Yeah, no, that one's really, really, it drives me crazy. And like when people are like, oh, can you post my photo? Oh, this. And it's like having to make the decisions not based on what makes people feel good, what makes people feel beautiful, what's going to like drive business, and having to do it based on what's going to keep your account online and what's going to keep you visible is really challenging.
It's very challenging. And I just remembered it's episode, I can't remember the number, but season 2 with Jordan Kensley. We talk about censorship, shadow banning, all of that stuff. So go listen if you have not listened already. But with that, I want to come shift the conversation over to our Q&A, which our audience has so lovingly sent in like a billion questions, which I'm really excited for. But are you ready to go into that portion of the show?
Yes. Yes.
Let's do it.
Have I answered everything that you need? How's it going?
Oh, no, it's great. This is like wonderful. So
okay, great.
Thank you so much for all of your knowledge and expertise and just like,
no worries.
Going into detail. I love it. So I guess the first question is, has she ever thought about dancing?
Okay, so obviously it's the reason why people dance is because it's the most lucrative job I would like to say in the entire world. But no, I haven't, because I'm not good at dancing and it's really hard. And I'm sure that like you, Steph, as an instructor and professional dancer and someone that is trained in dancing, you know that. So it's not like you can just get on there and know what you're doing and whatever. When I started when I started bartending, I would watch the girls and like their athletic capability, and I was like, I really want to learn how to do the splits. So my 2021 goal was to learn how to do the splits, and it's been an entire year, and I can't do it.
Let me help you.
So no, I can't even lift myself up on the pole, and I don't go on stage. It's like I would like, yeah, it makes great money, but no, I don't have the ability. So thank you.
Next time I'm in, I'm going to give you a tutorial.
I would give it a try for sure, but I'm not talented like that.
You are talented though. Very
Thank you. And other things.
What is the toughest challenge you've had so far running the club?
Definitely the pandemic and the regulation. And I think also, I think that when they said, so there was a point where they were like, oh, there's only one strip club left open in all of the country. And that to me wasn't an accomplishment. To me, that felt like the industry was collapsing.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart, you know? So it also felt like there was a target on my back. So it's like, why are we still open? Why are we still capable of being open? Why are we still making this decision? So the pandemic was really hard because it tested all of our limits.
Totally.
We felt the stress of, I think that another thing was like the mental health and like the stress of everybody. So that was really challenging. Not only the loss of compensation and money, because like that's why we're all here in the first place. And I always have conversations about money, like especially as a human resources professional, like with wages and stuff, like let's have healthy, transparent conversations about money. So I think the biggest challenge was definitely the unpredictable loss in wage for myself, the staff, the business as a whole, because my family takes loss of the profits. And also the inability to plan. And then if the pandemic if the pandemic didn't exist, I would say then what I touched on before, the biggest challenge would be the regulation of social media.
Right. Great answer. Can you ask Jade to break down the VIP dancing process? Lots of new dancers are confused by this.
So once again, anything that I say about procedures and processes only stand at Shakerz Show Lounge. So anything at any other bars, they do not. Those clubs have their own processes in place, and and they're great. And so for us, for our VIP dancing process, obviously that's different for the customer, our staff, and the dancer. So do you mean by for the? I guess a dancer asked this.
Yeah,
so,
I think it came from a dancer, if I recall correctly.
Okay, so for sorry, can you give me the question one more time?
Sorry. It's could you ask Jade to break down the VIP dancing process?
Okay, I'm gonna take that as what is it? What happens? Imagine you're hired as a VIP and like what that's how I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna interpret this as okay, so I imagine that Sugarcane messaged me on the Instagram or called or stopped by, and she is hired to do VIP shift. So Sugarcane is going to come to work completely ready because we don't have the VIP girls go in the dancer room.
Right.
So she's going to come to work with her hair and makeup done, looking polished, and she's going to come in her civilian clothes, outdoor comfortable, and bring her change of clothes for the floor. And then she's going to arrive by 10 p.m. at the latest. And when she arrives, she's going to come into or greet the bartender, and she's going to pay a floor fee. And the floor fee, the way that I see it, is you're either booked for the bar, you're an employee of the bar, you pay cover as a patron, or you pay floor fee, which is technically VIP dancer cover.
Right.
So you're paying that to tip out all the staff to provide you services for the night. So people watching the cameras, the bouncers protecting you, and taking care of any patronage that might act out, taking care of the VIP rooms, all that. And then the bartender taking care of all of the dances for the evening.
Yes.
So you're going to pay your floor fee. Ours is $50. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to get ready, and then you're going to head out to the floor and do your dances. Another thing that we are totally open to is that if it's it is accommodating with, and this is actually something that Shakerz is pretty known for, because we are, like I said, the more local and like local talent, like upcoming talent.
Yeah,
that's maybe a better
that's
word.
a great
Up and coming talent.
There we go.
We are one of the clubs one of the first clubs to put people on a stage when they're in their up and coming or like baby stripper years.
Right.
So a lot of the time, if you're a VIP girl and you're like, I want to get on stage, I want to try dancing, if it works in accordance with the schedule for the evening, a lot of girls will get on stage and try a show or a half show for the first time. Yeah, we have some deals for dances where you can do, I think we have 2-for-1s on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't worked a Tuesday or a Wednesday in a while, so that's just why. So.
Cool. That is the most eloquent answer ever. That was so perfect.
And always ask the customer to pay you up front.
Yeah.
Like, always ask for cash first, and if they don't have it, walk their ass to the ATM. Like,
yeah, exactly.
A long, beautiful walk to the ATM. I have signs in the rooms that say must pay cash first, because if someone comes to me and they're like, oh, my person can't pay me, and I'm like, well, you need to pay me. But these are the lessons learned, and that's why they call me a hard ass, because I would rather teach them these lessons than someone else mean.
Here we go. So I know we already kind of like, you already answered this throughout the show, but how did you buy a strip club at such a young age? I feel like we don't really need to answer that question unless there's something else you want.
I didn't buy the strip club. It's what is it called? Generational wealth. That's what.
There we go.
That's what people would say, but it's not easy, and it's definitely not just handed to me. No, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
No, I work 7 days a week, and the expectations are very high.
There we go. No pressure, right? How do you work with the dancers to ensure everyone is happy with the arrangement?
That's impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible. You can't make everyone happy.
So I actually wrote this down. And this is I wrote down this quote because I was just making notes and stuff, like trying to get inspired. And so I was in a sorority for 4 years at UBC, and it's like the first year that you're in the sorority is really fun, and then the second year you learn that the existence of student-run organizations is based on the volunteers that continue their existence because of like executive boards. So I then got involved with the student governance with my sorority, and so sisterhood and governance became ingrained into me during my developmental years, and I was on all these exec boards. And when an entire room of college girls is looking at you for an answer, you learn pretty quickly that there's no way to make everybody happy.
So true.
So, like, I have been put up on the stage and ripped apart by the sorority sisters early before that. I learned there's no way.
Yeah.
Even an attempt to make people happy, even to take care of people, there's no way to please everybody. And I just learned to do what's right.
Yep. Yeah. That's a great answer. Do what's right.
Yeah, do what's right. Because it doesn't break the law and it doesn't hurt people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they'll get over it. So I always do what's right.
There we go.
What's going to prevent the most damage.
Exactly. I'm like, what's the best for damage control?
Yeah, and happiness doesn't make money. So
yeah.
No, productivity does. So
there we go. From a customer's viewpoint, how do you differentiate yourself from other clubs? I think we touched on that a little bit, but if there's anything else we want to add, feel free to.
Well, we don't serve food, so that's one thing.
Yeah.
We geographically, we're located in, I think I mentioned that too, we're the only club east of the bridge, or I guess like east of downtown.
Yes.
So we cater to a geographic location for people in the suburbs, I guess, so they don't have to drive as far to go downtown. They can also we also book all of the same dancers and all of the same women as all the clubs downtown, so they don't have to drive as far to see someone that they would like to, or maybe their favorite performer. So, and then, like I said, up and coming talent, and I'm going to be working on that. Also this year, I want to integrate more shows and more aspects of the community. Yeah. I was thinking, like, I know that this is kind of far-fetched, but I kind of wanted to do a drag show.
Oh, please. I would
yeah,
love that.
I know. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know where to start, but that's kind of my random idea. So maybe someone will hear this and then they'll be like, I know where to start. So, but I was really hoping to focus on like the Whalley, Surrey, Langley, Lower Mainland community, because I know that downtown, everybody has that, they have that community there. So I really wanted to like be able to focus or, you know, give the stars of the suburbs somewhere that they could do their thing.
I will message you after, and I might have some people to connect you with. So
cool. Okay, yeah.
I will let you know after this we're done recording.
Cool.
That's really cool, though. I really hope that can happen. Like, that'd be really, really awesome. I would be so enthused to see that. So
yeah, and because another thing is that I don't even have to worry about having a crowd for that or someone to sell to, because I know that like the community within our industry would love to see that. Like performers like you and like everybody that loves to perform, they love to watch other people perform.
Yes.
So they would love to take a night off and just see something else, something different, and like support another group.
So cool. Okay, well, fingers crossed on that. You'll have to keep us posted.
Yeah.
How do you make sure baby strippers have a positive experience?
Okay, so another thing about like obviously, there's courtesy and rules to being a dancer. Excuse me. Maybe you can speak to this better than I can, because I don't even really know this. And this is another thing where when I came into the industry, I had to learn. These are the things where I was like, okay, Jade, pump the brakes. Like you don't know how to like own and operate a strip club. When it was like, I remember I accidentally turned the lights on before someone had like walked off stage. And then my security came over and he'd be like, you need to wait until she's off stage and she has her clothes on to turn the lights on. And I was like, oh yeah, it's just little things like that. But for baby strippers and protecting people and whatever, I don't get involved in drama on the floor. And I know that there's a lot of like fighting back and forth and animosity and, you know, the enemy within with women and like fighting over customers and stuff. And I know that that's probably a narrative about protecting girls and mean girls and this and that. But I think that this is actually something that's like also great about the whole, like, you can't fuck your way to the top with me. So something that you actually have to bring your all to the table.
Yeah.
So to do well at Shakerz, you have to, well, there's only one way to be successful at Shakerz. You have to come with a good attitude.
Yes.
You have to come play fair, and you have to work hard and treat other people around you and the staff kindly. And if you're just because you're hot doesn't mean that you can be an asshole.
Yes.
And just because you make money and you're hot doesn't mean that you can be an asshole. So there's that's how I think that I create an environment or a workplace that's emotionally safe for everybody, not only baby strippers, but for everyone in there, is by, I really encourage women too, if they're on like an angry phone call or if they're pissed off or if they're mad at me, I say like, go take your phone call outside, because like maybe so-and-so can't like mediate their emotions as well as you can. And I say like, don't talk shit in the change room. I just really encourage like a healthy, maybe I'm making it worse, maybe I'm making it better, but I just don't, there's no way that there can be like sexualized favoritism with me. So I just try and create like a level playing field that's based off of good attitudes and like actual good performance.
Yeah, it's really simple, as you said. Like, you should definitely come with a good mindset, because yes, I know we all have our bad days. We're like, I really don't want to be here, or like something happened and stuff like that. But you kind of like change your mindset when you're in the club and trying to sell dances and stuff, because that's going to come off on the customer too, and they're going to sense that.
Another thing I always tell people too is that you need to remember how you look to someone else. And like, if you are like clustering up with your friends, because like, like dancers and workers and colleagues and everything, like you're friends. And when you are all sitting together in the corner, like you look intimidating, you look mean, like you look unapproachable. I always remind people to approach customers and to not look cliquey and to look
Yeah.
kind and to look warm and to have a smile on their face and to sell the experience of company and empathy. And if you're already sitting with like your group or like your crowd, you're not going to achieve that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. I try not to be like that. I really, if anything, I'm a loner sometimes too. When I'm just
That's a
like,
good thing. It's great to be a loner, because if you're a loner, someone will come up to you and be like, why are you alone? And you'll be like, I was waiting for you.
yeah, exactly. Play that to your benefit.
Yeah.
So just a few more questions here, Jade. I know we're a little bit over in time, but just 3 more questions. So in an industry that seems really quote unquote sexy from the outside, what are the really unsexy parts of the job in the industry?
The worst part of the industry and the nastiest part of it, and it's not women hating themselves, it's not women hating each other, it is addiction. And it is like any other hospitality job. It is where alcohol abuse runs rampant because of the lifestyle, the schedule, and the accessibility to alcohol. I think culturally, that it's like you're working at a time where people are partying, and you're awake at a time where people are either sleeping, and then you're sleeping at a time where people are awake. So you're exhausted. You're working long hours. Another thing, you're socializing so much. So if you're not in the mood to socialize, you may take a performance enhancer. And the turnover, competition, and expectations of this industry are, well, they're crazy to start off with. But they're also subjective based on everybody's personal biases. So if people are going through things that make them, more, or like personal traumas, that makes them more susceptible to certain things. So substance consumption and substance abuse, nobody's ever tried to get sober in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's one of the biggest problems is addiction and the normalization of it. And it is hidden so easily. And yeah, I think it's another thing is that I think the whole culture, I was thinking about this too, because I see it in like my corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
The culture of negotiation and alcohol and like sales and alcohol. And it's like, well, if you're not a dancer, and where do you go to close a deal? Right? Like a bar, like lunch, like you go to the club to like close a deal. And it's like when you are a dancer, like you're selling something too. And it's this whole narrative or like this culture around negotiation and sales. And like even that is institutionalized as like a practice or a part of like celebration and everything. So I don't know. I think that, yeah, that's a really, they say like mental health, beauty standards, everything. I think that addiction and the impact that it has on people's health, aging, everything is really hard. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Like for myself personally, and I know I'm not the focus of the episode, but like myself personally, and with many of the dancers that are on the circuit, like a lot of us don't drink.
I
Um,
know.
but I
And it's,
do know some dancers that do have like some, like they like to drink after they're done work and whatnot. Luckily, I have not encountered anyone, at least not in my experience, and like no one's really had any like addiction problems.
no. And I
So,
think that there's also a stigma around like, I don't want this to like, because I don't think that this is what the thing is. I think people are like, oh, you have to be fucked up to do your job, which is not the
oh
case.
yeah, that's a total like,
It is a total myth.
like that. Yeah, it's totally a myth.
Totally
Negative
a myth.
stereotype.
And it's a total stereotype. And I think it's because it's like, um, I read this quote that was like, if your client orders a wine, you're certainly not ordering a Diet Coke. And it has to do with like the culture of matching someone to like convince them or to negotiate or something. And it's like, if you're trying to like sell a dance to someone, you want, like, I'll make girls fake drinks all the time, you know, but it's like, why is it a fake drink?
Right.
Right. So it's this culture of consumption and stuff, and like tricking people, and like alcohol having to be a part of the conversation. Or like, oh, can I buy you a drink? You know?
Interesting. Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think like, especially when I talk with a lot of dancers from Europe or like any country that has champagne rooms, I know there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, you better like champagne if you want to do this job. Like, you know, like, just having like, you mentioned the fake drinks, but like kind of like, it's almost like a facade. I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but like a facade that like we have to keep up with his lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be challenging for sure.
100%. And I think that, sorry, delete that part. I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh, don't worry, I will delete it.
I think that one more, I think I had an important part of this. Yeah, because I wanted to say that the stereotype is wrong, because I think that a lot of people don't understand that dancers love to dance because they love to perform, not because they love to perform.
We do. Like, that's the reason I keep doing it, because I love dancing. I love the performance aspect of it and being able to connect with people, and then the looks on their faces when they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it's so rewarding. So rewarding. What's the most lucrative? Dances, alcohol sales, or other?
For who?
I guess for the club.
It really depends on who's in the club. So it depends on the client. Yeah. So if there's, on this note, if there's someone that's sober in a club, they're not going to be purchasing any alcohol.
Right.
I would say that the most lucrative is cover, because if you need to get the person there for them to start spending money. So that's the most promising, or the most predictable.
Yeah, very consistent.
Very consistent, right? So it's like, if you get a customer, they're definitely paying cover. I would say it really just depends on what the consumer wants, right? Because as an entertainment lounge, or as an exotic show lounge, unfortunately, we are only open during the evenings. That is something we're working on getting as we expand, and as we, like I said, target another audience, because we want to be able to show the sports games and stuff. Yeah. Because we want to be able to cater to a larger crowd. But I think that it really depends on what the person wants.
Right.
Because if you don't drink, you're not going to be ordering beers.
Yeah. And you would hope that people are there for dances. You would hope.
You would hope that people are there for dances. I hope that people there are well behaved. Yeah. And there for a good time and a long time. Because the longer that they're there, I guess from a management perspective, the most lucrative customer is one that comes, behaves, and stays for a while.
Yeah. And there are some great people that come.
There are. Yeah.
So many great regulars there. So many. Okay, Jade, last question. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. Have you experienced any outside pressures? And I don't have any context in that, so I'll let you interpret it the way that you'd like to interpret it.
Okay. Yes. I think that there's a couple of outside pressures. I think the conversation around the strip club industry, and then I think also the attempt to regulate the strip club industry. Right. So I think the pressure would be the regulators, and we'll start with that. I think because both of them impact business, but they also impact kind of the structure of the industry. So the British Columbia industry is very small. Every single person knows each other. Yeah. I think that's what they say with everything, you know. That's what we also say in construction. They say, don't ever do anything in construction because you'll never get another job. But you will get another job in strip club industry if you do anything dumb, but basically that means that the people, and this has to do also with my experience with my staff, is that the people that are here for a reason. They know the industry in and out. They've been doing it for a long time, and it is really specialized in terms where you're dealing with a lot of sensitive information, sensitive topics, sex workers being a marginalized group. It's not for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we get these, notices from, especially around the pandemic, when people would come in and they say, oh, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. And it's like, I don't really know the difference between a Shakespeare play and dancers on stage because they're naked, but I think that regulation from outside pressures is, at the end of the day, more detrimental to the safety of sex workers than helpful, because I think that when you take away any market, it creates an underground economy. So right now, clubs who are run by these pros who have been in the industry for so long, these veterans, and not just at my place, but at the other clubs in BC, there are some really, really lovely, amazing people, and with the BC agency. And the reason why that they're there is they know the place, and they care a lot about the places, and they care a lot about the women as they come in and as they go out.
Right.
But they know how to run these places, and they know how to watch the cameras, and they know what kind of behavior is acceptable, based on empirical evidence, based on what works, based on what doesn't, not based on code on paper or policy on paper. So they're not just checking in once in a while. They're there. They've lived the experience. They know it works. But one of the problems with the pandemic and everything is that when you take away strip clubs, it doesn't take away strippers.
Yeah.
So people still need jobs, and people are still going to work. And it unfortunately creates an underground economy of unregulated dancers working. And that's where you get problems of that's where real recruitment for trafficking and real recruitment for or sexualized violence happens. And that's where real danger to bodily autonomy is threatened. Yeah. So I think that one of the things that the clubs do, and the amazing people that dedicate their time and get paid really well for it, that they keep the dancers safe by running the clubs up to regulation, up to provincial code, up to liquor code, liquor standard. But they really give the dancers a place that they can work that is safe. Yeah. So that outside pressure is really shitty, because that's one of the reasons why I think the industry is dying, is because the government thinks that it's breeds crime, but I think that it actually does the opposite. But you can't see that perspective unless you're on the inside. Totally. So, and then another pressure, I think, is just the cultural perception of strip clubs, and that women don't want to dance, so then it's their last resort, and it's that's somebody's daughter. It's hell yeah, it is. And you're helping pay her rent. And so I think that when I came over to the club, obviously everyone that I knew in Surrey, I was come on over, come to Shakerz, let's do it. And I remember some of the responses, people were oh, my parents would kill me if they found out I was hanging out at a strip club. And I was what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I think that one of the conversations is that, they feel bad, watching dancers, or they feel bad, or they feel like they're exploiting women. And I think that what we need to do is relearn this word of exploitation, and understand that dancers are benefiting from a productive and respectful experience with a customer.
Yes. And then we choose to be there.
And then you choose to be there, and then you want to be there and have a productive and respectful experience. Is that you want to provide that fantasy experience for a customer in exchange for money. Like, what's disrespectful and exploitative is like when they say, "Can I have something for free?" And you're like, "This is my job." Like, do you go to a restaurant and ask for your meal for free? Like, no. But I think that we just need to like relearn about this is like a normal thing and that it's like a choice, right?
100%.
And I think that people need to understand that women or dancers, not just women, because my grandma made a good point, and she's like, anyone that wants to be a dancer can be a dancer. When you say the podcast, like, make sure that you say people, which I thought was really rad of her. And
amazing.
People that want progressive grandma.
So cool.
So people that want to be dancers, they do it not because they have to, not because they're forced. I mean, maybe they are, but I don't know any that do. They do it because it pays well and because a lot of them get to perform. Yeah. And that was the conversation. I had a conversation actually on Saturday night with two of my friends, and they said that when you go on stage, it's like nothing else. You become this person, and to have that experience is like you don't get it in any other industry.
You don't. So, you can't. Like it's a really, really unique experience, and it's really hard to explain, but like it's the performanceship, the connection you get with people, like it's you really can't find that in other areas unless it's like something that's like artistic or another performance-based kind of gig.
Well, I saw this. It's like I work in construction and human resources during the day, and it's like people go into this industry and trades and construction because they're good with their hands, or they like to build. And you go into dancing because you like to perform, right? Yes. You wouldn't go into plumbing.
I mean, you can, but
I know a plumber dancer. She's not plumbing anymore, but
that's amazing.
I tried to hire her. So, but I read this quote also that was like there's a social hierarchy for skilled labor, and it taught us that sexual energy, empathy, and then performance is less important than the skills that teach you how to build a house, which I disagree with because both of them are essential for human existence.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So fascinating. Oh my gosh. Jade, thanks. This was awesome. That last answer, the last question, I think is a really great way of wrapping up the show. And the whole point I brought you on is to to normalize this and to have this conversation, to open discussion, to unlearn what society has taught us about sex work. So I think that's a perfect point to end the show. But before I let you go, where can we find you?
You can find, most importantly, you can find me at Shakerz Show Lounge. But you can find me at Shakerz Show Lounge on Instagram and at Shakerz Show Lounge on Facebook. And that's it. You don't need to know about my personal stuff. So, or you can find me on LinkedIn. So
there we go. Well, it was a pleasure, and don't run away just yet because it's going to be new episodes every single Sunday. It's Strip by Sia on Instagram, Sia Steps my personal, Strip by Sia on Twitter. Don't forget to become a patron, or maybe consider becoming a patron on Patreon. It's patreon.com/stripbysia. And that is it for today. So thank you so much, Jade, for coming on the show, and we'll catch everyone in for another episode next week. Bye. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellanderama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.